Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless official 24 channel. The day in Genoa City began like any other, but little did Noah know that by nightfall, his life would be turned upside down in the cruelest, most heart-wrenching way imaginable. Sienna, the woman who had been the center of his world, the one who had given him hope, love, and moments of rare happiness in the chaos of their lives, was gone. Completely, terrifyingly gone. Noah arrived at her apartment that morning, eager to surprise her with breakfast and a few quiet moments alone, but instead, he found a scene that would haunt him forever, her door ajar, her personal belongings eerily untouched, the faint scent of her perfume lingering like a ghost, and a single, crisp envelope lying on the kitchen counter. He felt his heart tighten in his chest as he picked it up, trembling hands unable to stop the quake in his fingers, the paper slightly heavy with the weight of words he already dreaded. He tore it open, the crumple of paper sounding like a death knell in the silent apartment, and as his eyes scanned the handwriting, his world shattered in a way that would leave him breathless and broken. Matt. It was Matt's signature on the note. Every word on the page was a dagger twisted deep into Noah's heart. Matt had taken Sienna. Kidnapped her. Taken her away from the life she had in Genoa City, from the man who loved her fiercely, and from the world she had built around her own dreams and desires. The letter explained nothing of where she had gone, only that Matt had taken her because he believed she belonged to him in some twisted, delusional version of reality. Noah's knees buckled, his body threatening to collapse under the sudden weight of panic, grief, and helplessness. The city around him suddenly felt alien, a place full of familiar streets and shops that now seemed like a labyrinth of emptiness, each corner echoing Sienna's absence. His mind raced, memories of her flashing through his consciousness in a painful, relentless loop, her laughter in the morning light, the way she had looked at him with trust and love, the late-night whispers in the dark that had once made everything feel safe. And now, Matt had stolen it all. He crumpled the letter in his hand, the words blurring as his vision filled with tears he refused to let fall at first, clinging to the last strands of control as though that could somehow undo the horror. But there was no undoing what had happened. Sienna was gone, and Matt had orchestrated it with the cold precision of a man who had spent months building a plan rooted in jealousy, obsession, and a distorted sense of entitlement. Noah's heart pounded in his chest as he thought about the man who had betrayed him, the man he had once called a friend, who had now become the architect of his deepest nightmare. Every call he tried to make to Sienna went unanswered, and every ringing tone that failed to connect felt like another cruel mockery of the reality he now faced. He ran through the streets, desperate for answers, calling her name into the empty air, each echo a haunting reminder that she was not there. He spoke to friends, colleagues, anyone who might have seen her, and yet the answer was always the same: no one had any idea where she was. Each "I don't know" was a blow, a relentless hammer striking at his sense of hope. The city that had once been vibrant and full of promise now seemed a prison, every familiar landmark a reminder that Sienna had been here, had lived here, and now she was nowhere. Noah thought of her family, the people who loved her, and felt a pang of guilt. How could he have let this happen? Had he missed some sign, some small gesture that could have prevented this? But the questions offered no comfort, only a spiraling sense of helplessness. At home, he could only stare at the letter, over and over, his eyes memorizing every word, wishing desperately that it contained a clue, a hint, anything that could lead him to her. "I'm sorry, Noah," it read, in the cold, impersonal hand of Matt. "She's with me now. Don't try to follow. She'll thank me one day." The cruelty of the words, the smugness beneath the apology, cut through Noah like ice. Every fiber of his being screamed against the injustice, the sheer audacity of someone to think they could take the person he loved most, as if he had any right to do so. The world blurred around him, the walls closing in as panic surged like a tidal wave. He knew he had to act, had to find her before it was too late, but he also knew that Matt was clever, methodical, and dangerous. Every instinct he had honed over years of navigating treacherous situations told him that this was not a simple act of anger or whim, it was calculated, and Sienna's safety depended on speed, intelligence, and courage. He couldn't waste a second. The streets of Genoa City became a blur as Noah's desperation overtook him, every turn, every corner, a potential clue. He drove through the city, searching her favorite haunts, places they had shared in happier times, hoping against reason that she might have left some sign, a note, a word, anything. The letter burned in his pocket, a constant reminder of the cruel reality, the personal betrayal, and the immense challenge ahead. Each passing moment felt like an eternity, and every phone call that went unanswered drove him further toward despair. He thought of Sienna's eyes, full of trust and love, and felt the searing pain of uncertainty. Had she been frightened, hurt, or forced into submission? The thought of her suffering pushed him harder, fueled his resolve to find her no matter the cost. As night fell, the city lights casting long shadows across the streets, Noah could not sleep, could not rest. His mind replayed every conversation, every encounter with Matt, trying to discern any weakness, any hint, any thread that might lead him to Sienna. The letter remained a constant, haunting companion, its words etched into his memory, driving him to the brink of obsession. Every passing car, every unfamiliar face, every unexpected sound made his heart leap with hope and then crash with despair. And yet, beneath the agony, there was a spark of determination that refused to die. He would not allow Matt's cruelty to succeed. Sienna's life, her safety, her freedom, these became his singular focus, the axis around which his entire existence now revolved. He contacted the police, detailing the situation, but he knew deep down that official channels could only do so much. Matt had planned this meticulously, and every delay, every bureaucratic hurdle, felt like a ticking clock against Sienna's life. Friends and family rallied, but the fear of the unknown, the not knowing where Sienna was or what she might be enduring, was a poison that gnawed at everyone involved. In his darkest moments, Noah would clutch the letter, reading the words again and again, trying to divine some hidden meaning, some overlooked clue that could guide him to her. Sleep became impossible, meals were forgotten, the world outside his apartment faded into insignificance. All that mattered was Sienna, all that mattered was bringing her home. Every plan he considered, every avenue he explored, was colored by the shadow of Matt's audacity. Noah knew that he was not merely racing against time, he was racing against a man who believed he was in control, against a situation that could spiral out of control with a single misstep. The city's skyline, once a symbol of opportunity and life, now felt oppressive, a reminder that danger lurked just beyond the familiar streets. Noah's phone rang constantly, each call a mixture of hope and fear, but none brought the news he craved. He spoke to Matt once, through a blocked number, hearing the smugness in his voice, the cruel satisfaction of someone who believed they had won. Every word, every taunt, reinforced the horror of Sienna's situation and the stakes of the peril she faced. Noah's mind was consumed by scenarios. What had Matt done to her? Where had he taken her? How could he reach her before it was too late? Friends and allies brainstormed strategies, combing through potential hideouts, places Matt might logically take Sienna, but the thought that she might be far from any reachable location was a chilling possibility. Night after night, Noah walked the streets, drove endlessly, questioned anyone who might have seen a glimpse of Sienna or Matt, and yet, the answer remained the same, no one had any clue where she was. Every failure, every dead end, compounded the anguish, leaving him raw, desperate, and exhausted, yet he refused to surrender. The letter, with its cruel simplicity, haunted him continually. It was not just a message, it was a taunt, a symbol of Matt's power over the one thing Noah held most dear. And yet, it also fueled him, pushing him to think, act, and endure in ways he never had before. The world of Genoa City, filled with gossip, power plays, and daily dramas, seemed to vanish in the face of his singular obsession, finding Sienna and bringing her back safely. Every call to friends, every whispered tip, every lead, no matter how small, became a lifeline, a thread he clung to in the storm of uncertainty. And though fear threatened to overwhelm him, hope, stubborn and defiant, refused to die. Sienna was alive. He knew it. Somewhere, she was waiting, and he would not rest until he found her. The thought of finally seeing her, of holding her close, of ensuring that Matt could never harm her again, became the fire that drove him forward, a fire that no despair, no cruelty, and no distance could extinguish. The letter, though heartbreaking, had done one thing: it had clarified the stakes, sharpened his focus, and made the mission impossible to ignore. Noah was determined, relentless, and unyielding. Matt may have kidnapped Sienna, he may have stolen her from the life she loved, but he had underestimated one thing: the depth of Noah's love, the strength of his resolve, and the unbreakable bond that tied him to Sienna. And though the city slept unaware, a storm of determination and fury was gathering in Noah's heart, a storm that would not rest until Sienna was back where she belonged, in his arms, safe from Matt's twisted grasp, and finally free from the shadow of betrayal that had shattered their world. The hunt had begun, the stakes had never been higher, and every heartbeat, every breath, every desperate step was dedicated to one mission: bringing Sienna home. The hours bled into each other as Noah's search stretched into the evening, the once familiar streets of Genoa City transforming into an endless maze of anxiety and dread. Every streetlight that flickered on seemed like a tiny beacon of hope, cruelly contrasted against the darkness that had invaded his life. He drove past the places where he and Sienna had shared quiet moments, laughter, and even heartbreak, the memories now twisting like knives in his chest. The restaurant where they had their first real date flashed past his eyes, the park where they had walked hand in hand on lazy Sunday afternoons, the bench by the river where they had once shared a desperate, heartfelt conversation about the future, all of it now a haunting reminder that she was no longer there. The letter in his pocket had become a constant weight, its cruel words echoing in his mind over and over, leaving him unable to focus, unable to eat, unable to sleep. He could still feel the tremor in his hands when he first read it, the way his knees had threatened to buckle beneath him as if the entire world had shifted and left him suspended in an endless void. Matt had succeeded in shaking the foundations of his life in a way that was impossible to ignore or dismiss. Noah's phone buzzed incessantly with calls from friends, family, and allies, all wanting to help, all desperate to provide any information that could lead to Sienna. He barely noticed them, his mind looping endlessly through scenarios, where Matt could have taken her, what he might be planning next, and how much danger Sienna could be in. Each time the phone rang, a fresh surge of panic shot through him, his stomach tightening as he feared the worst. Finally, he answered, hearing a familiar voice on the other end, trembling with urgency. "Noah, it's Tracy," came the voice, laced with fear and determination. "We've got something. I don't know if it's helpful, but you need to listen." Matt was seen leaving the outskirts of Genoa, near the old warehouse district. He wasn't alone, he had a black van. Sienna was with him. Noah's grip tightened on the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white, his pulse spiking as adrenaline surged through his veins. The warehouse district, a place full of abandoned buildings, dark alleyways, and dangerous corners, was a maze that would test even the most prepared searcher. But Noah felt a surge of clarity amidst the terror. He couldn't wait for law enforcement to find her. Every second Matt had her in his grasp could be a second too many. He needed to move, needed to act, needed to reclaim Sienna before it was too late. "Thank you, Tracy," he said, voice tight and trembling. I'll handle this. I have to find her." The drive toward the outskirts of the city was a blur, the city lights giving way to dimly lit streets and the occasional flicker of a distant neon sign. Noah's mind raced, trying to anticipate Matt's movements, his motives, the twisted rationale behind the abduction. He remembered every confrontation, every argument, every moment that had hinted at Matt's obsession. The man's jealousy, always simmering beneath a veneer of charm and civility, had finally reached a boiling point. And now, Noah realized with a sickening certainty, Matt had acted not just on impulse but with a strategic, calculating precision. Sienna was not merely kidnapped, she was the centerpiece of Matt's desperate, deranged plan to assert control over someone else's happiness, someone else's life. As he neared the warehouse district, Noah slowed the car, scanning the shadows for any sign of movement. The streets were eerily quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every sound, every footstep, every distant clang of metal. He parked a block away, slipping out of the car and moving cautiously, his eyes searching every doorway, every alley, every window for a hint of her presence. And then he saw it, a faint glow of light seeping from a warehouse on the far end of the block, the doors slightly ajar, and the unmistakable figure of Matt standing near the entrance. His heart hammered violently in his chest, every nerve on high alert. He could see Matt pacing, restless and tense, And then the figure beside him, a woman, unmistakably Sienna, though her posture was guarded, her head bowed slightly as if she were trying to make herself small, trying not to attract attention. Noah's breath caught. Relief surged momentarily, only to be replaced by the terror of what could happen next. Matt's expression was cruel, almost smug, and he was clearly oblivious to Noah's presence, making his approach dangerous but also his only chance. Noah crouched behind a stack of crates, trying to formulate a plan. The letter in his pocket was a stark reminder of Matt's audacity, the cruel games he was playing. He had taken Sienna to a place like this, far from anyone who could help, counting on fear and isolation to manipulate her and torment Noah. The thought of Sienna's fear tightened a fist around Noah's heart, but he forced himself to focus. He needed to act smart, act fast, and above all, act decisively. He crept closer, every step calculated, every movement deliberate. Matt was unaware, completely absorbed in whatever he was muttering under his breath, perhaps rehearsing some twisted justification for his actions. Noah's mind raced with contingency plans. If Matt saw him, if Matt reacted violently, if Sienna panicked, the consequences could be catastrophic. But Noah could not let fear paralyze him. He was the one who loved Sienna, the one who would not abandon her, the one who could navigate the chaos and ensure her safety. The air was thick with tension, every sound amplified, every shadow a potential threat. He moved with stealth, his eyes never leaving Sienna, his heart aching with every small sign of her discomfort, every subtle flicker of anxiety across her features. Suddenly, Sienna lifted her head, glancing in Noah's direction, or perhaps it was just instinct, a sense of presence that even Matt could not suppress. Noah froze, holding his breath as she spoke softly, words almost lost to the night. "Noah?" The sound of her voice, strained but unmistakable, was like a lifeline thrown across the chasm of despair. His pulse surged, and in that moment, the fear and panic were replaced by a singular, unyielding determination. She was here, she was alive, and he could not fail. Matt turned abruptly at the sound, his expression shifting from smug confidence to immediate alarm. "Noah," he barked, realization dawning too late. "How did you?" But Noah did not wait for him to finish. He lunged forward, adrenaline fueling his speed and precision, tackling Matt to the ground in a flurry of desperate, controlled fury. Matt struggled, but Noah's rage and fear combined to give him strength beyond reason. He pinned Matt down, eyes blazing, voice hoarse with emotion. "Stay away from her, Matt. You hear me? Stay away." Sienna, trembling but unharmed, finally looked up fully, her eyes meeting Noah's. In that moment, a flood of relief, fear, love, and gratitude collided within her. She stepped toward him, arms outstretched, and he caught her immediately, holding her close as if letting go would be unthinkable. Tears streamed down both their faces, a mixture of fear, relief, and the realization that despite the danger, they had survived. Matt struggled beneath them, shouting, flailing, but his power over the situation had been broken. Noah's grip was unyielding, his anger and love giving him control over the moment, ensuring that Sienna was safe and Matt could not harm her again. Once they were a safe distance from the warehouse, Noah and Sienna took a moment to breathe, the night around them suddenly less ominous. Sienna clung to him, voice shaking as she spoke. "Noah. I was so scared. I didn't know if you'd find me." Noah held her tighter, feeling the full weight of her fear, the trauma of the hours she had endured. "I'm here, Sienna. I'll always find you. I'll never let anything happen to you," he whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead, a promise that extended beyond words. The letter, now crumpled and discarded on the warehouse floor, seemed like a distant threat, a memory of the horror they had just survived. But the experience had left scars, emotional, psychological, and perhaps even physical, that would take time to heal. Noah knew that while Matt had been stopped for now, the consequences of his actions would reverberate, leaving both Sienna and himself acutely aware of the dangers that lurked in the shadows of Genoa City. But for this moment, they had each other, and that was enough to fight through the lingering fear. As they walked back toward the city lights, Sienna clinging to his arm, Noah reflected on the fragile, fleeting nature of life, love, and trust. The city around them seemed almost reborn, a place of opportunity once again, though forever shadowed by the events of the night. Every step towards safety, every familiar street, every comforting landmark was a reminder that though evil could strike unexpectedly, love and determination could fight back just as fiercely. The ordeal had changed them. Noah knew that Sienna's trust in the world, and in him, would need time to heal, just as his own understanding of safety, control, and vigilance had been irrevocably altered. The letter, Matt's audacity, and the